what preceded every single one of those civil rights bills in 64, 65, and 68 were actually race riots. 68, you were coming off of 1967, the Kerner Commission report. Dr. King's book, Where Do We Go From Here, also dealt with that whole issue. All those riots were preceded by police brutality. And so one of the issues that they were protesting was exactly what NFL players are protesting, police brutality.
I think that it would be a bit disingenuous to say that John Carlos and Tommy Smith were protesting police brutality. I'm sure that was quite possibly part of it, but...
No, not possibly. That was one of the issues.
I would say that, at that time, segregation was still in full effect. There were still laws, I think, in effect that discriminated against us. As it relates to police brutality in 2018, Roland, the government is highly motivated to try to prevent police brutality.
Which government?
The American government.
But which one? Yeah,
they're all, because Roland, this is where the capitalistic society, when these deaths happen, their government the taxpayers get taxed. There's $1 billion settlements, things like that. The government has great enthusiasm to stop police brutality because it costs money.
But they are.
Let me finish. The government is very enthusiastic about incarceration. What the government wants is to politely take people to jail and prisons. That's a money-making venture. The government has no interest in a handful, 20, 100, 200. They don't have an interest in 200 or 300 people getting killed by the police. It's a money loser for them.
Right, but if you have New York, if you have the city of New York, well, they spent nearly $500 million in settlements over a decade.
Right.
You look at the same thing in Chicago. The reality is those things are continuing. You look at what happened there's a city in Michigan. You had a police officer who pulled a black man over, planted drugs on him, beat him, had to raise taxes to pay the settlement. The reality is you're still seeing the payout. You're still seeing the settlement, multi-million-dollar settlement.
I get it, but Roland, there's no job where people operate in perfection. There's just no job. And police have a very difficult job. They're underpaid, they're undertrained. We're in the most armed society, perhaps in the history of the planet and the world. Anytime you have a society this armed, there are going to be mistakes made. And again, do we overlook them? No, I'm not saying overlook them. But to sit here and pretend like, because it's popular over Twitter, that there's an epidemic of police killing African Americans or just Americans in general, it's just not true.
Well, it's nothing to do with Twitter. The reality is this here. First of all, I don't say somebody being shot and killed is somebody not being perfect or a mistake. That's death. No one can return from death. I would surmise.
Roland, I can't get into, it's disingenuous to get into some emotional conversation or illogical conversation. Again, you're running around with buzzwords. I'm talking about this conversation of trying to pretend like the police and the government have any interest in any citizen getting killed. They don't. They're highly motivated because of the real plan is mass incarceration. It's not killing people in the street. It's such a small number, and I get it. But in this society where gun violence is this prevalent, there are going to be mistakes made by the police. Just like
there's a difference between mistakes being made and when you have. First of all, I've covered city government.
Gotcha.
I've covered county government.
Gotcha.
I actually bathed in the room when politicians were having to deal with these issues. The reality is this: when you have cases, numerous cases, not a handful, we have numerous cases that, first of all, run the gamut. The city of Cleveland is on their second consent decree in a decade. When you look at when Mitch Landry became mayor of New Orleans, we called in the Department of Justice to look at that police department that had decades of corruption. Randy Ziegler, the police chief in Philadelphia, he called in DOJ. Same thing. We know, of course, the history of Los Angeles and the history in New York. And so this is not just a matter, I believe, of players protesting just in case of somebody being shot and killed. It's also those folks who are being beaten. We have Chicago cops, in the case of LeBron McDonald, who, first of all, lied, flat out lied. Then you had cops who went to the Burger King, they had surveillance video, and erased the video. They actually erased the video. Then they all lied and covered for each other. And then there are multiple cases in Chicago. John Burge, who just died, of course, beaten, tortured upwards of 40 black men. That's not mistakes. That is culture.
Do the police have a culture of excessive force? Perhaps they do, and probably they do. Is our government highly motivated to try to prevent it? Absolutely they are. Because we're not in a perfect society. People make mistakes. They hire the wrong people. It's hard to have a perfect culture. There's no job. It's like a doctor. Doctors make mistakes.
Right.
People driving cars make mistakes and kill people. People shoot and kill each other because they're making mistakes. They get too emotional. They're too filled with hatred, whatever. Human beings are flawed and they make mistakes. And so, Roland, I get it. That a lot of this stuff plays great on Twitter. No, it's just in the day, but yeah, I can deal with Twitter. For years, because I'm aware most black media people and most media people in general do everything to build their Twitter brand and protect their Twitter
That's
where their passion comes from.
Somebody who has someone running black newspapers, before Twitter existed, this was an issue.
And as someone who has buried a family member because of police misconduct, someone very close to me and my family, I get the emotion when the police misconduct. I helped raise a relative who was killed by police. I get it. But the solution isn't this, we're going to monitor the police over Twitter or through Twitter and point out every example of what's going on with the police when they do wrong. That's not the solution.
So what's the solution?
The solution is we have to acknowledge the government is already motivated to prevent police violence and police misconduct because it's a money loser and we're in a capitalistic society. The issue that we have here has been the over-criminalization of poor people, and mass incarceration is actually the problem. The hot-button issue that will get you on TV and build you a Twitter following is going to run around and micromanaging the police and pointing out everything that they do wrong. If they did that to me or you about things that we do wrong on our jobs, trust me, they can find examples time after time after time. This complete demonization of the police is inappropriate for us because we live in communities where we need the police. We need to recognize the police make very little money, get very little training. They're the common man. If they want to get upset with someone, get upset with the politicians and the government officials who have put laws in place to criminalize the behaviors that go on in our community. Because we're not doing both.
No, actually, the interesting is that, first of all, one of the reasons why we have still a change in many of those laws is because
you got what law?
Well, first of all, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, you did not have a level of first by the families you'd have now. That's first. Second of all, you also have not had the level of scrutiny of police departments to change practices as a result. One of the issues that you have is you have strong collective bargaining at contracts where you have police departments in terms of what they can and can't be. We need that Amber Geiger right now in Dallas, who, based upon that contract, did not have to speak for 3 days, did not have to actually say what happened. She put the 3 days, she could not say anything, and then, according to their contract, is allowed to present an affidavit that actually was written by a police officer.
What is the reality of facts? Having been black for 51 years, having my father doing business in the black community my entire life, having grown up in the black community, well, we can focus on the, let's say, 100 mistakes that police make every year.
It's more than 100 days.
But we know what is going on in our communities and where our children, who are killing our children. And so we can spend all this time focused on, let's demonize the police, let's criticize.
But they demonize the belief of things, and so get killed. If somebody gets killed, and if you have, in Chicago, for instance, it's like, I don't care who's doing the killing. No. There's a judge in Chicago, for example, the judge in Chicago, who saw 8 cops lie on his witnessing. He reports them to a police accountability board. Nothing is done. This judge comes back and says, they are lying. They're flat up lying. He's saying, if you're going to be protecting the serve, if you have a better team with a gun, he said, but to sit here actually lying and witnessing, I would think if we're about justice, we would say, you know what? We don't need cops to lie. We don't need cops. I mean, you made stuff up. Well, that's the point issue. You lie, see.
We also don't need journalists who take an issue that we're having in the black community, gun violence, and the death of our young people. And for black men 18 to 24, our leading cause of death is homicide. We don't need journalists who say, no, let's focus on this smaller issue that's damaging young black men and ignore this issue and have all the you're doing it right now, and have all the conversation about this issue and all the athletes taking the knee about this issue, instead of us as black people saying, hold on, we have some issues in our community, there's some things we can do, and there's some things we can ask the government to do. And again, the government is already highly motivated to prevent police brutality. They're not highly motivated to fix a corrupt criminal justice system that over-criminalizes our behavior as well as mass incarceration. So Roland, what I'm going to say, Roland, is primarily, and what I do for a living is mostly talk about sports. I'm not an expert on the police. I think athletes have gone too far with the virtue signaling and taking a knee. It's the approach that hasn't contributed to anything but a discussion about the national anthem. And so I get it's great for your show and your Twitter following to get a sports writer knee deep in a conversation about the police. I'm primarily a sports writer. I could talk about athletes and things like that. I can sit here if I wanted to all day, but it's a distraction, and I'm not going to.
Well, it used to be so. First and foremost, there are multiple issues that I want to bring up.
What?
I brought that one up specifically because I know for facts. I was looking at what's about 50 years ago in those protests. That was indeed one of the
those athletes created a conversation about the mistreatment of African Americans in 1968. The athletes right now are not creating the conversation about the mistreatment of African Americans right now. They're creating a conversation about the appropriateness of protesting during the national anthem. That's what the conversation is the last 3 years.
I think there's a difference between what the athletes were protesting and what their issues were, than what other people wanted to focus on. And I've seen that in their politics. I've seen it where both what pitted, well, they don't want to talk about that, but they want to make about the end.
So those athletes and Martin Luther King and the people of that generation were far more strategic about getting people to talk about what they actually wanted them to talk about. These athletes have not acted in a strategic fashion. Colin Kaepernick hasn't, and he created a conversation about the national anthem, which is a waste of time. And that's the difference between Tommy Smith and John Carlos, who at that time were being mentored by Dr. Harry Edwards, and that's why their approach was more strategic and more effective, rather than Colin Kaepernick and these athletes just freelancing and create a conversation about the national anthem.
So when you completely dismiss the thing that Colin Kaepernick has done in terms of the workshops, in terms of see that he voted.
I don't dismiss them, but I think I did. Let me answer the question. I think they've mostly been a PR move by Colin Kaepernick after getting run out of the NFL, and he's involved in a fight against the NFL. I think most of it is a PR move. I can't diss it. It's help.
All this PR move. What is it? Have you ever talked to Colin Kaepernick?
I've been to the press conferences. No, I haven't talked to Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick doesn't talk.
First of all, he does talk. But, I mean, everybody he talks to, I talk to him.
Well, great. Well, no, that's what I'm talking about. Muhammad Ali and all these people y'all are analogizing to, wasn't afraid to come out
first of all,
and deal with their critics and back up their point of view with their own mouth and words, not speaking with people in private, not tweeting out this or that, not hiding behind a bunch of groupies in the media that think Colin Kaepernick is something special.
But Colin Kaepernick has spoken. Colin Kaepernick has done so, but not in the real. No, well, but again, but first of all, you say he hasn't, and then you say not in a real way. But it's when we say a real way. So what do you want Colin Kaepernick to do? Well, what do you?
If I want to take that bold of a stance, I would do what I'm doing right now. Coming out that someone is a critic of mine and sit down with him and address.
But there are folks who have different approaches, and I've seen this across the board. I've seen it.
Had every excuse for this dude.
No. I'm not.
One of the most polarized.
I'm not offering the excuse, and I'm saying it as
afraid to back it up.
As somebody who's been on the news side, who's been on the culture side, somebody who's dealt with folks. You talking about what your job is, okay? That's what your lane is. I have dealt with a number of people who have said, you know what? There's some people who are out front, there are other people who are not. There are some people who choose to speak in a certain venues a certain way, others who don't. So everybody has their own way of communicating. And so you can say, well, I want him to do more. Okay, I got you. Okay, but that's what he has chosen to do. But when we look at the value of in terms of creating conversations, I do believe that this thing goes beyond just in terms of the protests and just them kneeling, which first of all was to bring attention to the issue. Other folk with other agendas still don't want to deal with that because they want to say that's irrelevant. They want to flip this whole thing into a flag and say, oh, it's about disrespecting America. You also have players who are involved in politics. You have a LeBron James, okay, when it comes to education, when it comes to his taking a stance. You have presented LeBron James even coming to Los Angeles as basically doing the bidding of white liberals. So I don't understand
why said it's a Hollywood move.
Okay, but why can't we look at what LeBron is doing beyond basketball and realize that if we say we want athletes doing this, and he's doing it, but now he's in the bidding of white liberals?
Lord, you're talking about what you and others want athletes to do, this, and this.
But you do.
No. You can't speak for me, Roland. Let me.
But you said what you want athletes to do. You said that you want athletes to put their money together and be able to create business and build institutions in black communities. But you've also called them stupid and dumb for protesting. And it's like, well, they're stupid and dumb. Are they stupid and dumb? Put their money together.
Roland, I've done some stupid and dumb things in my life. And so when people have pointed out that I'm stupid, that's stupid and dumb. I've done a stupid and dumb thing. That doesn't make me a dumb person. And so I'm a critic. That's my job. I'm a journalist. I'm not a groupie. I'm not here to be best friends with every athlete in the world. I don't care to DM and hang out with them at parties. I'm a critic. That's my job. And so sometimes I criticize a lot. Sometimes I praise a lot. I love what he's done with the school. I would like for athletes to take their money and resources and use them to support the causes they believe in, because that's what millionaires and billionaires do. Instead of electing themselves as the leaders and the intellectual thought leaders. I'm not with that.
And so, which athletes have elected themselves as intellectual thought leaders?
Malcolm Jenkins, a lot of these athletes you just praised, because what I'm telling you, what millionaires and billionaires do, celebrities and things like that, they're not equipped to be the intellectual thought leaders. And so they should take their money like other white millionaires and billionaires do and invest in people who are actually dedicated to this, not people that have been dedicated to developing themselves. And that's what
but they're not positioning themselves as intellectual thought leaders. What they're doing is they're saying is, as an athlete, and I want to speak on these issues, and many of them say, many of them say, coming from those communities, many of them say, still dealing with those issues. Now, how is it all of a sudden the intellectual thought leaders? They are. They're saying,
don't know what they're talking about.
Well, Jason, a lot of them say, you know what you're talking about.
I got it. And they're more than welcome to that opinion. I'm not going to demonize them as racist. I'm not going to demonize them as self. They can have that opinion. But what I'm talking about with athletes who have turned into millionaire celebrities, they're not John Carlos and Tommy Smith. They're not Muhammad Ali. This is not the 1960s. Muhammad Ali was connected to a black empowerment religious sect controlled by Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X.
Yes.
He was connected to something real. That has been our tradition, connected to the church. This stuff I'm seeing from athletes, there's no connection to the church. There's no spiritual foundation to it. There's nothing.
But here's the piece. But first,
athletes doing way too much. They're not connected. Just like John Carlos and Tommy Smith were connected to Harry Edwards, he was a part of it. I don't see that same connection. I see athletes freelancing and standing on the basis of Twitter.
It's interesting.
And guys like you that gas them up and can do no wrong. I'm not with that.
Well, first of all, let's do a couple of corrections. One, when you say can do no wrong, you're wrong. Okay, because as somebody who's actually sat on these panels, as somebody who's actually one second. As someone who's actually had conversations, There's a difference between sitting on television and opining, and you don't even talk to the guys. But there's a difference when you actually get out from behind the desk and be a journalist and go actually talk to them where they are. I've actually had the conversations with Jenkins, with Ben Watson, with Bennett, with Colin Kaepernick. And so my perspective in terms of what they're doing is totally different because, frankly, you had it.
I have talked to Malcolm.
So here's the piece. So you talked to Malcolm Jenkins. You talked to Malcolm Jenkins. I have. So how would you say that he doesn't know about these issues when in Philadelphia they made the attempt and brought juvenile justice leaders and brought others to the table to meet with Lurie, to meet with Goodell. They actually went out in the community to do that. They've done that.
Again, and this is where I'm saying the athletes are wrong, because I don't want the athletes getting meetings with Roger Goodell and the owner of the Philadelphia Eagles to move into a lane they're not qualified for. There are actual people, politicians, community organizers, real people, not just celebrities and names, Roger Goodell, Jeffrey Lurie, but there's actually real people who have expertise in these issues. And so, again, I've talked to Malcolm Jenkins rather extensively here in LA, where he came out to do our show, sat in my desk for 30, 45 minutes, and we went at it. And I think his intentions are good. I think some of what he's doing is misguided because he's trying to do too much. And so, for those of you that think it's great that he got the owner and Roger Goodell to meet with somebody about criminal justice reform, I'm not impressed, because that's not Roger Goodell's area of expertise or Jeffrey Lurie.
But if this isn't your area of expertise, aren't you operating out of your lane?
No, my area of expertise is in commenting on athletes.
But
commenting on Malcolm Jenkins.
No, but you're also commenting on these other issues that have to do with sports, and you're basically saying
because the athletes are involved in it, Roland.
So if you say they're not smart enough, what if you're not enough?
Maybe.
So why are you talking about it?
Because it's my job.
So how about this here? So Roland, let me ask you a question.
You the difference. Malcolm Jenkins' job is to tackle people on the football field. My job is to talk about athletes and what they have going on. It's my job.
But if Malcolm Jenkins chooses to speak to issues beyond... No, well, hold on. So first of all, you have passions that go outside of your job. So for instance, for me, although I'm a journalist, education is one of the issues that I'm concerned about. I created School Choice with a Black Choice Initiative. Although that's not my job, that is still a passion, a concern of mine. And so just like what I do...
Involve yourself into it, but people in the media have the right to criticize it.
No, I understand that.
It's not an indication that they're doing something inappropriate or wrong. But they may just be doing their job, Roland.
But if a person is involved in those issues, and they are doing that, and first of all, what I appreciate that there are athletes, that there are entertainers who don't only say, yo, I'm only here to play ball. I appreciate individuals who say, I want to use my platform to go beyond just what I seen as just my job, and using their celebrity and using their influence to speak to those issues. I think the difference here is that we've gotten used to athletes having a nice and neat, foundation, give some books out, have a golf tournament, and sign some jerseys. But when all of a sudden you got some guys who want to go deeper, then it's like, oh, no, y'all not smart enough for that. And what I'm saying is, I'm encouraged by that, because hopefully other folks who are athletes will realize that you might have a job, but you can care more about your life than just your job. You can care about your community.
See, I think there's a lot of people that care about their community and express their care in different ways.
Which is true.
And so I think there's more than one way to express your care for your community. And so I just happen to believe what Jim Brown believed. And Jim Brown is an athlete that I think did it right. He played his football career, and then he got out of football and involved himself in activities in this community and getting back to this community and trying to be a leader in this community after he was done playing football.
Well, after he was done, he chose to become a Hollywood star. But he was also involved in other issues before. But let me ask you this question.
I get it.
No, but he was.
Roland, I get it. The Jim Brown's American program and involvement here in the LA community is something that I think should be a role model for a lot of athletes.
And when I appreciate
Jim Brown has been quite clear. Again, when you're playing in the modern NFL, NBA, with all these corporate ties tied to you, and all these billion-dollar corporations tied to you, you can't just run out willy-nilly and be an authentic civil rights leader or leader in these political issues, because you have too many corporate puppet strings attached to you.
But first,
So those are just the facts of the modern athlete that are different from the athletes of the past.
well, first of all, the athletes of the past. First of all, many athletes of the past didn't do a lot of these things anyway because they didn't have the financial wherewithal to actually do it. What you do, however, is
So wherewithal, there are things called golden handcuffs. That's actually what prevents you. And that's again why Muhammad Ali in boxing, an individual sport, he was the draw, and because of his connection to the Nation of Islam, Elijah Muhammad, he was far more effective than these guys that are out here trying to mimic him now with nightly corporate stage.
well. I think for one,
it's a joke.
I think one thing is we talk about guys mimicking. I think they're operating and standing in their own because that's two totally different deals. I do want to ask you about this. I thought this is interesting. When LeBron James talked about the N-word being sprayed on their phone, and you said that he had fallen to the far left track of that value embracing victims of the era. But then you said racism is an issue in America that is primarily an issue for the poor. It's not LeBron James' issue. He's removed himself from the damages and the ravages of real racist. So are you saying that if you're black and you have money, that you don't encounter racism, that you don't deal with it?
No, I think you encounter it, but when you're at LeBron James level, or even mine, and I'm playing it light years away from LeBron James, it doesn't do real damage. And so let's take what LeBron James, he was spray painted on his garage. That's a racist act, that the N-word was spray painted on his gate. Did it do any damage to him? He wasn't here. It was removed before the police even got here. There was no damage done. And so we've reduced racism to whatever little hurt feelings or someone said this or that. Racism is actually something real that damages people. And so when you become the kind of wealth that LeBron James has, and you become an elite, it's damn near like O.J. Simpson and what he got away with. He's an elite. He's super wealthy. But the ravages of racism don't touch him in the same way as it does the poor people.
Well, obviously.
And so his comments analogizing himself to Emmett Till's mother were preposterous and ridiculous, and anybody with a brain knows it.
But actually, when you talk about the idea of racism,
I'm not talking about the idea. I'm talking about the damage.
No,
racism.
Hold on.
The damage
No,
out of it.
no, actually, no.
Someone said
No, actually, we're not. What we're doing is showing actually the gamut of it. So, for instance, when a George Wilborn, brother, comedian, done relatively well. When George Wilborn is trying to buy a home in a suburb of Chicago, and then when the owner finds out that he's black, and then George Wilborn, all of a sudden the house gets pulled off. George Wilborn has to sue as a result. George Wilborn encounters racism when it comes to housing. There were Los Angeles chargers who said when they actually moved from San Diego, who faced housing discrimination when they were looking to buy a home. Oh, they had money. They were facing housing discrimination. Robert Smith, richest black man in America, worth $2.7 billion, has talked about the numerous times he gets pulled over by the cops in his very expensive car, going to wait his private jet is waiting on him because they're not looking at a guy who got $2.7 billion. They're seeing a black man driving a nice car. The reality is that I don't care what your station is. Bob Johnson, just the other day, because what he had dealt with, you can have money in America and you can still deal with racism. The issue, though, is why should we have to say, well, yours is real and mine is not really real?
We don't have to, but we don't have to pretend like LeBron James getting something splayed on his $20 million mansion in Brentwood is in any way equivalent to what happened to Emmett Till or Vietnam. He said it, and it was ridiculous.
Well, first of all, we say equivalent. No, I'm not saying equivalent. You're right. It's not equivalent, but
it's not even in the same planet. Roland, so the damn N-word was removed from his gate before he even saw it, before the police could even get there. It did nothing to him.
But we have reality, Jason, of folks who are black in this country who work in places where opportunities are not even being afforded to them. And somebody might say, oh, but you have a nice life. And this black person over here
No, this isn't about having a nice night.
No.
This is about
No. First of all, I'm going beyond just the N-word and LeBron James. What I'm going
into damages.
No.
Activism actually damages you.
Yes.
It doesn't inconvenience you.
And what I'm saying is this: to be black in this country, we want the same thing white folks have, and that is to be able to drive, to shop, to go to work, and not have somebody do something to us that is racially motivated. And what I'm saying is, the reality here in 2018, at least, you might have a lot of money, you still are going, you may have to encounter the reality of racism in America.
And so, if there's any white people watch, what they would argue is, you think nothing ever happens to me bad on the job? Nothing racially motivated ever happens to me on my job? There are white people that look, and again, may not be at the same rate, may not be at the same...
Not even close. Not even close.
Oh, who knows? I can't speak for white people.
Actually, if you go to the EEOC, you can be there.
I can't.
I mean, because that's where typically the claims are made.
I get it. There's some people make claims, some people don't. Roland. Some people just, that was an inconvenience, or that was some BS that I dealt with, and move on. I can't speak for white people. But what I can say is racism and what we should be fighting against is the racism that does real damage, because it is there. I get for Twitter and for the media and what will get you on TV.
But you
sit around and some act like LeBron James having the N-word rape it. Oh my God, this is almost...
So let me ask you a question. But let me ask you a question. But they keep saying real damages. Yeah. Do you believe that it is real damages when you have African Americans who are locked out of Wall Street?
Well, yeah, that's the real damage.
Do you believe that even when you have African Americans who are well, when they're trying to create hedge funds to be able to invest in them? Okay. And then also, is it a real damage when you're an African American and you apply for a job and somebody says, oh, we don't like the style of your hair, so therefore you can't. Got it. And so here's what I think the value of having that conversation, which goes beyond just the N-word on a game, is there are people who actually believe, oh, no. And I'm not talking about LeBron James money. I'm talking about the people who say, oh, no. You don't deal with those things. You don't see those things. There are African Americans.
So here's my problem, Roland. What happened to LeBron James doesn't convince those people that these real things actually happen. What it makes them do is say, like, oh, that's some whiny BS. Oh, and that's what they do. Well, and so it makes it easier to ignore.
Actually, I think you're wrong, because when you have instances where African Americans who are well known, who have had to encounter the reality of race, other people have said, wait a minute, hold up. If it can happen to them, I don't know.
No, they don't. See, because Roland, this is the...
Are you serious?
Yeah, I don't think that's what they do. No, because again, Roland, you believe in trickle-down social justice. Just like Ronald Reagan believed in...
Actually, you're wrong.
I deal with too many black people.
No, you're wrong.
And somehow, if we treat LeBron and Serena better, it's called a trickle-down.
No.
And the people at the bottom...
You are absolutely wrong. So to say that this is what you did, you are 100% wrong. I don't believe in trickle down. Ella Baker, one of the greatest organizers, believed not pulpit to pew. One second.
So much time talking about LeBron James.
No.
And something that got spray painted on this game.
So here's what's interesting. So
that's trickle down.
That
wasn't damaged. It does
no. First of all,
and there's an idiot.
Here's the deal. No. See,
for white person.
Here's the piece.
We don't even know if it really even happened.
But here's the piece. Here's the piece. You want to limit this to solely LeBron James and the game. No. Listen. I lay out for you other examples of well-to-do African Americans who have had to deal with the reality of race. I'm trying to have a broader conversation beyond the game. And what I'm trying to say is not trickle down. What I'm trying to say is that you have the individual. There's not a question of, well, your wealth is this, so therefore you really don't experience wealth. What I'm saying, no, what's happening?
It gets pulled over.
No, first of all, his name is Robert Smith. No. Here's Jason. Here's what I'm.
This isn't the great mass.
No, Jason. Here's what I am saying. What I'm saying is, when Dr. King said we are here to redeem the soul of America, when Dr. King said we are here to make America be the nation it is on paper, not the nation it is in reality, what I am saying that black folks would want. That is, whether you are a LeBron James or whether you are a middle-class teacher, or whether you are a brother and sister who live in public housing, or a single mother or two-parent household, then you know what? We would like to go through this society and not have to deal with the issue of race. What I looked at, what LeBron was saying is that this is what happened to me.
You said you're moving away from LeBron, but you just brought it back to LeBron.
No, because I said,
you told me to talk about LeBron.
No. I'm expanding on the point. And that is, when we look at the issues of race, whether you are an athlete or an entertainer, or whether you're somebody who is on Wall Street or Main Street or MLK Street, the reality is you're still black in America, and you're still dealing with the indignities of race. What I would hope people would get out of that example of LeBron is that it's not just, oh, I didn't realize that somebody like him, because, as a matter of fact, I don't even see him as black. I just sort of see him as sort of something else.
I think what you see is something that happens in a fantasy Twitter world that just doesn't.
Hold on, here's my deal. Here's the deal.
Because this is what's going on. But if, again, you have some fantasy about how America works.
No, I don't.
It's not how it works.
Jason, I have a reality, Jason.
They're not looking at LeBron James and spray paint gay and going, oh my God.
No, Jason, and just our reality. But you part of your argument always constantly, well, what happens on Twitter? First of all, there are numerous conversations and numerous things that are happening that's not happening on Twitter.
You, like a lot of media people, are a slave to your Twitter feed.
How?
Hell, Roland, you've tweeted like 200,000 times.
Okay.
Everything.
Do you know what? Do you know what?
Slaves to the
No. First, it's not a. First of all,
a platform for them.
First of all, it's not a slave to it. What it is a communications medium. Okay. Now, as somebody again who's actually run 3 black newspapers, who's been news editor of a black magazine, who's run a black website, who understand how to communicate with folks, it is a medium. So you operate with this, well, you're a slave to it. No, I understand what it is. If you have the capacity, let's also, if you really want to expand this, when you're African American who's run a black newspaper, you might have a circulation of 20,000, but yes, you built a following, you could actually reach more people on such a platform, and it goes beyond just the traditional following. So that's not a slave, that's knowing how to use it.
Roland, and several times you thrown out your credentials as a journalist. And
But you say I'm a journalist, well, go ahead.
I've said I'm a journalist. I haven't tried to be condescending about my...
No, it's not condescending.
No, Roland, you're acting as if somehow your journalistic experience somehow supersedes mine. And that's
no, I'm not acting like that.
That's preposterous. But trust me, I understand journalism, and I understand what's going on right now with journalism. The entire media is addicted to Twitter. And
are you?
Absolutely not. Again, am I on it? Do I use it? Absolutely. But I know exactly what it is.
So all other media, everybody else is addicted.
They haven't figured it out.
Everybody else is addicted to Twitter, but you, I'm not.
No.
I'm the handler myself.
No. So I understand what Twitter is doing to us and what it's doing to America and what it's doing to the journalism profession. It's turned everything into clickbait. You can't have real discussion. That's why we spend so much time talking about what got spray painted on LeBron James's fits, rather than the crisis we have within our community of our family. Let me finish, Roland. I get the whole thing of cut me off anytime I get to a point. But rather than dealing with the crisis
you may want to stop stepping off
in our families in Black America, we're spending time worried about a $20 million mansion that may or may not have had the N-word spray painted on, and somehow this is some great example. But we have a complete collapse of the black family that we won't talk about. We have a complete disconnect from God and just based in this secular world, and that's what Twitter is, and we're all addicted to it, and it's taking us further and further into the secular world, away from God and away from the path that has served us better here in America.
And this is a mistake you keep making. You keep saying, oh, we got to have a conversation, we got to have it in depth. You act as if, oh, no, we can't talk about that, as if we won't cover anything else. Really, as we can. See, the whole point of this is not to have...
What are we talking about?
No, one second. Hold on.
Right now?
You don't ask me not to interrupt you, don't interrupt me.
What are we talking about right now?
You don't ask me, don't interrupt you, don't interrupt me.
What are we talking about?
Like I said. So let me finish my point. Let me finish my point. Okay, but so you don't interrupt. because you want me not to interrupt you, do the same. The reality is, we can have an in-depth conversation. You talk about all these things, but then when you get challenged on it, ooh, why are we talking about it? The reality is this here. What you're looking at right now. Hold on, one second. Hold on. You're interrupting. But Jason,
I'm not one of
Jason, you're interrupting again. Allow me to finish.
I'm not one.
Jason, allow me to finish. Jason, allow me to finish. No, you say, why are we talking about this here? Why are we discussing this here? Why are we discussing these things here? Because those are things that you discuss. Those are things that you discuss numerous times. If you don't think that the protesting and the Colin Kaepernick and that's what you do about nothing, why do you keep talking about it?
Because
in fact, your Twitter feed, you Twitter, you've been complaining when he got the award from Harvard. You sent multiple tweets. If there's no big deal, if everybody else is enslaved to it.
Multiple tweets about what?
When Colin Kaepernick got the award, did he need the award from Harvard?
I said something about her not saying.
You posted about three. No, I'm posting about 3 or 4 different tweets. And so
they said what?
Here's what you said. I'll pull them up. But what I thought is what I think is interesting is it really doesn't matter. Why do you keep talking about it?
Because, Roland, as I've explained to you, my job is to talk about what's going on in sports and who's making news in the sports world. My job dictates that I talk about Colin Kaepernick. This protest was one of the biggest deals in the history of sports. It changed the conversation about the NFL. It's my job.
But if you're saying, what's no big deal, why we talk about it? So let me ask you this question.
I have a job, man.
Well, actually, first of all, we all have jobs, and there are a number of things that we can also talk about, and we can actually say, you know what, I don't think that's really important. I can talk about this in sports. I mean, we can actually do that.
I have a job that's tied to television ratings and connected to what the massive audience wants me to talk about. I can't just talk about what I want to talk about. I have a job. I have bosses.
So what you're saying is that you talk about these things because it's also part of the ratings game.
It's part of my job.
Right, but then you complain.
Television, yes, ratings are a part of television, Roland.
Okay, but you just complained and whined about people using Twitter for clickbait, which is the same as ratings. It's the exact same thing. Yes.
Roland.
You said, this is what you said. Too many people in the media are concerned about clickbait. That's what you said by Twitter. Dude, that's the exact same as you said. That's about ratings.
140 characters.
280.
280 character reduced, dumbed down conversation that makes everybody have a dumbed down.
Well, actually, you can now see in tweets, you can actually send about 10, 12 consecutively, so it's more than 280. But about point, Jason.
That makes everybody have a
dumbed down. See, this is where I think Franklin's being a hypocrite. You just said it's about rating. I got to talk about it.
Part of my job is to talk about sports and firmly to drive television ratings.
Which is clickbait. And if somebody else's job is to utilize Twitter for the same thing, but you say they're bad, but you're good. Let me ask you this question. With 18
silence platform.
Well,
it's controlled by people in Silicon Valley.
Well, guess what? Somebody sitting right there would say your platform on my 20th Century Fox is also controlled by somebody else and not controlled by you.
No question about it.
So there you go. We're 18 days away from an election. You said before, you don't vote.
I don't.
Why?
Because I've never trusted a politician a day in my life. I don't believe in politics. I'm not a person who really believes in compromise. And politics is mostly about compromise. I'm not good at that.
So how we came was,
I don't trust.
Nobody?
Not in politics, no. I think it's a very dishonest profession.
So all of them?
Pretty much, yeah.
So when you think about it historically, when you look at the city of Atlanta, when in 1973, 0.0012% of all contracts, and Mayor Jackson runs. And Mayor Jackson, by virtue of being the mayor of Atlanta, literally changes the course of history for African Americans. He used it through politics. He used the 2 terms as mayor to change. Coleman Young in Detroit, Marion Barry in D.C.
I don't believe in politics. I really don't.
So the issues you often talk about, how did you guys present politics has no role in that?
Excuse me?
The issue that you talk about, say we should be discussing or dealing with.
How about me? Now, I'm not giving you the advice. Hey, you got to follow and believe what Jason Whitlock believes. I'm not advising anyone that. But come on, me. There's 30 things unique in my personality.
But if you don't vote, aren't you part of the problem?
You might argue that.
No, Steve. Because
You might. I don't believe that. No.
so of the things that are happening in our world, any number of issues. If politics is involved in it, well then, how can we chase something for the good if we don't vote for someone who we think will be able to make changes?
Because I think politics, the way it's to shut it down, is always going to let you down. I think that there's so much dishonesty and corruption in politics that I just don't personally involve myself in it. What I believe in, what's best for us as African Americans, is an allegiance to God. I believe that is our salvation.
And allegiance to God.
Far more than politics.
You do know politics also deals with God.
We have replaced religion with politics. We have an addiction to politics. We as black people, we talk about politics from Obama to Trump the way we used to talk about God, and I think it's inappropriate. It's our constant, everyday conversation. This is all part of my problem why I can't stand Twitter and social media. There's a disconnect. It's one of the most secular places you can actually be. I think if you go look at the Asian American community that has had a lot of success here in America, it's not through politics. It's through an allegiance to themselves and taking care of themselves. That's why I think we've lost force as African Americans.
Do you have Asian Americans had the same history as black folks in America?
I don't think they've had the same history, but I think they've had issues in America, and I think they've addressed their issues by gathering up in their own communities, supporting each other, and supporting themselves, and they're not as heavily involved in politics. I think there was a time when we needed to be heavily involved in politics. There were laws on the books that prevented us from pursuing happiness, liberty, and things in America. I think we went through that time in the 60s, 50s, 60s, maybe part of the 70s. Again, I'm not suggesting to the rest of Africa that you disassociate yourself from politics, but I think we overdose on it.
You do.
You do know political. I don't.
Well, first of all, it's not solely political, and also, but it's a whole bunch of people who have lots of God, but also have no plan. The reality is here. We can show the timeline of the role that politics has played in actually making our community a better community, but not only making our community a better community, also making our lives in America better. To act as if somehow that's irrelevant is crazy. And again,
for me, I didn't say it was suggested for Roland.
So
this is my personal thing.
So, let's say your top 3 issues. What are they?
For African Americans?
No, your top 3 issues. So whether you want to be for black folks and everybody, what are top 3 issues?
The number one issue I think facing the African American community is our breakdown in family. And I would couple that with our distancing ourselves from religion. I think those two things go hand in hand. Until we fix the black family and until we get right back with God, nothing good is going to happen for us.
But when you say get back with God, there are millions of black folks who are in Church of the Center, who are in Bible study. There are numerous
Church and Bible study, they go straight to politics. They turn on TV and they have an addiction to politics.
You do know we had religious leaders in the 50s and 60s who were also heavily involved in politics.
Did it? We had laws on the books in the 50s and 60s that drastically needed to be changed.
We still have laws on the books that actually were set during those times that still have to be changed. The Florida Restoration voting initiatives right now dates back to a law in the 1880s. The governor of Virginia, who won Terry McCullough, when he wanted to extend voting rights to formerly incarcerated, all 13,000 at one time, the Republicans said no, you have to do it individual. That dated back to a 1902 law where a lawmaker said on the floor, we are doing this to keep the darkies from voting. And so the reality is to act as if somehow politics does not still happen and hurt us or we somehow can't interact with it.
Did it say that?
So, but again though,
for me, I don't involve myself in politics.
So you look at the issues.
Number one issue.
Okay, for 3. You said.
I really only have 2.
You said the family and the black church.
Family and spirituality. We have disconnected from God, and it's a mistake.
Well, I would argue, especially as somebody who's the husband of a minister, and in terms of the folks who I also see, there's a significant number of us who are very much there with our religion. But I think there are a whole lot of us who also love to talk about what is happening in our society and frankly are sitting on their behinds and not voting when they can actually impact it. See, I know there are politicians who are good people. There are people who are there to do the right thing.
If you go study the history of the planet, if the family's not connected, nothing can grow from that. If the family's not together, nothing can grow from that. And so we can put all the laws we want on the book.
Yeah.
But as far as families are in disarray and our children are being raised by grandmamas and aunties and cousins and things like that, nothing is going to happen.
And what
as long as we are disconnected from God, nothing good.
And but here's what I also realized. There a long time for a whole lot of us have been connected to God, have been praising and worshiping and all of that. And we are still being broke. We are still being locked out. You can be the most holiest of a holy person and you can be on a job and somebody can make a decision that, nah, you ain't getting promoted. You can sit here and lay hands and heal people all you want to, and you can still encounter that. What I am saying is, we can actually do both at the same time. And what I am looking at, and I talk about in terms of what has happened, I think if anybody who reads Dr. King's book, Chaos or Community, where do we go from here, what he laid out in that book, where he talked about the institutions that can play a critical role in saving Black America. He said the Black church, he said the Black press, and he said the Black professional organizations, which includes fraternity and sorority, because of the infrastructure. He dealt with religion, but even Dr. King understood, writing that book in 1967, that we can be as holy as possible, but there are still other aspects of our lives that we must contend with. And to act as if politics and community, you can even say about community. My plans were followers of our city club. That's still politics. Because who picks up trash and who cuts out overgrown lockout and who tears out crap houses, that's politics.
To me, family and God and family are the foundation.
Okay, Dave.
Healthy community.
Okay.
Healthy group.
So what do you do?
Foundation's no good. You can stack all the politics on top of what you want. It's going to collapse.
Okay, so what do you do then? So answer this question. Yeah. What do you do if you're their family and it's mama and dad? And they are holy people. They love God and they serve God. But their kids still go to horrible schools. They also are living in areas where you don't have economic opportunities. They are a nuclear family, loving it together. But this is the inside of the house. This is the rest of the house. How do you deal with that? If politics doesn't matter.
I'm not saying that I didn't say politics, though.
Okay, it's fine. Okay, so if you have this Black family that's together, and they are loving each other, and then they're praising God, and they love God. But then when they step outside of their house, they're still dealing with an economic reality, and an education reality, and a social reality. Who changes that? How does that family?
I know many families like that. Most of my friends come from families like that, and I know how we made it and moved forward. And so again, if you come from, and I came from parents that were divorced, but I know where my grandmama had me, and I know where my mama had me, and I know what they planted in me. And so again, there will be obstacles in life, but if you really have a spirit-filled life and a God-filled life and the right kind of family support, you can overcome those obstacles right here in America.
But again, when you are dealing with all those realities outside of the home, there are folks who say, I still got to deal with that. I still got to deal with that.
Everybody does.
Well, no, but again, I think holistically is how we have to look at it. I think it's frankly naive to think that, well, if it's just this is coming from somebody. Parents have married 51 years, okay, still together, 5 kids, 4 went to college, all of that, but we still are looking at what happens when we still are operating in this society that goes beyond our church, that goes beyond our family, and the stuff that we got to deal with. That's still there.
And Roland, I think life is full of challenges for all human beings. That's just the way that it is. Life is unfair. Life is hard. What do you do to limit the ability for racism or whatever the obstacles are to impact you moving forward?
How do you eliminate that? How do you eliminate it?
I think you, how did me?
No. How would say
Through education, through self-responsibility, through accountability for myself, to taking care of myself and not making irresponsible decisions that make it so when I face an obstacle, I'm able to overcome.
So if it's education, and when we also look at the reality of the type of schools that our children are in, when we look at the inequities of those schools, not just big city, but also rural as well. Again, we could first of all, in the history of black folks, in 399 years black folks have been in America, we can say, oh, that person. But if you talk about a collective, we still have to accept the reality in terms of where we sit collectively in the United States. And if education is one of those areas, that's one where you damn right we better be involved in politics, because that plays a huge role in what schools get built, the amount of funding that goes to those schools, to give us those opportunities.
Here's my position, Roland, is, let's be involved in politics, but let's do it from a foundation of family and God. And then we can start making better decisions when we enter into making those decisions along politics. We have, to me, accepted some giveaways from the Democratic Party that have crippled our family.
Like what?
The whole welfare system, the whole system, to be quite honest with you, integration was a mistake, Roland. And the whole deal of, we're going to go out to these schools and have white teachers teach our kids, that was a mistake.
Actually,
we shouldn't have been fighting for the better financing for our schools and for black teachers and for us to take care of ourselves,
but Jason,
rather than, hey, let's go out to somebody else's neighborhood and have them take care of us. That's a mistake.
No, Jason. No, well, first of all, you obviously have not fully studied Brown versus Board of Education and Brown 2. Brown versus Board of Education and Brown 2 were about finances. The whole basis of that was the inequities. It wasn't just, hey, when it was some white kids. When the Thurgood Marshall, when they went to
happened though?
No. And that's where you're wrong.
We didn't all run into it.
No, we didn't all go into that. What happened still happened was you had black folks who were saying, properly funded. You had people who were saying, but that's not what we did. No, you should say that's not what we did. You acted as if somehow we had this whole other institution that was there. What you should have was you had folks who were saying, okay, this is how we actually going to move and make this state possible. Here's what black people knew. Black people knew y'all got the money. Y'all got the resources. Now, all of a sudden, when it came to how our schools looked, the books that you were reading, the uniforms that you had, all those different things, it came down to money. The reason they were fighting Brown versus Board of Education was about money. The reason they fought integration or even kids sitting next to each other was about. And the reason we still have inequities in education today is because of money. White parents moving out the suburbs, saying, you know what, we want our money to stay in our neighborhoods. We don't care what y'all neighborhoods are like. That's about money. The entire education system is set up based upon property taxes. That's based upon money, which is based upon race and wealth.
Robert, money is not the solution for every problem.
Let me ask you a question.
Money is not
are you in America?
It's not the solution for every problem.
All the federal agencies that share along with the White House, which one shares along with the White House?
Which one shares a long?
Yes, that's only one federal agency where you can play flag football on a White House lawn. Treasury. You want to understand America? White House is power. Treasury is money. Power, money, money, power. Do you know what's right across the street from Treasury? Bank of America. Most of our banking institutions. If you don't think America is about money, that's what America is about, money.
No, I didn't say America wasn't about money.
Well, we better have a money conversation.
I said money doesn't solve all problems. And as I explained to you earlier when we go back to the conversation, that's why I said, and as you just said, money explains a lot of America. And that's why I say
That's America.
yeah, when police brutality is a money loser for the government, trust me, the government is interested in stopping.
No, you know what's gonna stop that? I'm telling you what's gonna stop police brutality.
Not money. Money.
No. It is no. It is money. No, it is money. You know what's gonna stop police brutality? When taxpayers don't have to pay the bill, where you can take a police officer's pension. Trust me, when the city no longer has to pay the legal fees of a cop, trust me, that cop is gonna think twice before he beats somebody with a baton, because if that person goes, wait a minute, that's why.
The cop might also think twice before he enters the neighborhood or enters a dangerous situation.
No.
That may be the solution.
No, that cop, trust me, if that cop then goes, wait a minute, if I beat somebody,
Doing it all over the country, Roland. You can look at the murder rate in Baltimore after the Freddie riots. It's been all over the country.
and that was because those cops did not like the fact that somebody was holding them accountable. That's the problem.
And they started doing mass policing.
Yeah, hold on. Wait a minute. So basically, stop doing their job. So what they basically were saying was, how dare you
Demonize people who don't make
No. That wasn't demonizing, Jason.
One of the hardest jobs in America.
Jason. So because cops got indicted, then all of a sudden
It's more than indicted, man.
No, that's it.
We sit on TV. I'm talking about what's going on with policemen. We sit
Jason.
on TV and act like police is the worst people on the planet.
Jason, in the city of Chicago, they withheld the Laquan McDonald tape for 4 years. They did not want the tape released, and then they lied.
Well, I know you can go to point.
No. I'm showing you the example. The cops in Chicago.
Again,
Wait.
something inappropriate.
No, not inappropriate. No, not inappropriate. Laquan McDonald is dead, and the cops lied. And
went to prison.
And what the cops really did was they said, how dare you indict one of ours? We gonna stop working. They don't want any accountability. That is.
Most people, Roland.
But these are people who have guns and badges.
I get it,
Who
Roland.
can
But
take
that's
your
most
life.
people.
Dude.
That is they're human beings, Roland.
I know they're human beings.
Look, they raise their hand.
But
they were human
guess
beings.
what?
They don't
That
want
the
accountability.
level of power that they have that you don't have.
I got it.
And you know what? What comes with that badge and that gun is a high level of accountability. And damn it, they need to be held accountable. And it can't be, oh, you're demonizing. No. For the cops who do good, celebrate them. But the cops who do bad, you damn right go after them and not coddle them. And I'm not going to excuse it as it was a mistake or it was an accident.
Because I've actually dealt with the issue.
Well, when you said perfection,
Personal life.
when you bring it,
No profession is preferred.
none is perfect. But there are few professions where you can shoot and kill somebody and get away with it. That's what it is. That's what it is. One of the questions I got to ask you about, and that is... No. This is just a couple more questions.
Are we at that time? Yeah, there might be much. 6 minutes in the second word. All right, go ahead.
Couple more questions. We look at what a number of athletes are doing. Grant Hill, things that he's involved in. Chris Webber, things that he's involved in. When I look at the Bennett brothers, I'm looking at athletes who are obviously totally different from previous generation of athletes because of the level of wealth that they had. I do believe that what we are seeing, and I don't believe they get the same level of attention. I think that we are seeing the athlete today, frankly, who is doing even more than a significant number of athletes who were in the 50s and 60s and early 70s, who are actually changing lives of people that frankly doesn't get the level of attention that it should get.
I'm sure that's true. They have far more wealth. They have far more opportunity to do more.
So do you believe, though, that you're in sports, do you believe that that's also part of the problem in that in this medium, we don't offer a balanced perspective of the black athlete or what many of them are doing, where it's only, well, just a couple here, then a couple here, as opposed to the things that they're doing, opening of schools, and what they're doing in terms of with scholarship, what they're doing in terms of the level of investing they're making, what so many of them doing in terms of literally rebuilding blocks and communities and the projects that they're involved in. Do you believe media could do a much better job of telling that story and not just focus on X's and O's?
Yeah, I think they could, and I think they probably do more of that now. But again, does it get traction? Is that where people want to read? Again, sometimes it's supply and demand. Demand dictates what the supply is. Again, I was involved with, the formation of the Undefeated. It was about telling a fuller story about the black athlete. And so, ESPN has a website with 40, 50 African-American journalists that's dedicated to telling the full story of African-Americans. I think they're trying to do it, so I can't say all of the media is ignoring it. I can't, it's a supply and demand issue, but, there's a website, The Undefeated, that's fully staffed, and the ESPN has dedicated a lot of money to, that I think is trying to tell a full story about the African-American athlete.
Speaking of that, that's your greatest failure?
Is that my greatest failure? No, I think that's one of my greatest successes that they actually launched, and there's 40, 50...
but you didn't launch it, you were fired from it.
No, I got it. So it happened. Because trust me, there were people trying to stop it from happening. And the whole issue with me, when I was at ESPN, was about whether or not they were going to fully fund the issue. That's what the fight was over. Some people didn't want it to happen. I did, and I wanted it to be fully funded with a full staff, just like Brantman and other places. And I had that fight with them. They fired me, but they went ahead and launched the site, and they fully funded it. I wanted that argument.
So you don't think you don't think that if you had stayed there, they wouldn't have fully funded it? You think by firing you, that's what got it fully funded?
I think it played a role in it, absolutely, because there were people there that just absolutely didn't want the thing to happen, whether I was involved or not. And then there were extra people gassed up because they didn't want me involved. And so, again, in losing that fight, I think, or in having that fight, I think John Skipper at that time realized what was going on. Can't move forward with Whitlock. Going to get rid of him. But we are going to fully fund this thing. The guy is right.
Well, the mistake that you made that, looking back, you wish you had managed it better?
I wish I had managed it better. No, because I think I did the things necessary for the site to launch and for it to be fully funded and have a full staff. Are there small things along the way? It's a startup.
No,
it's a startup. All kinds of things happen, a wrong person got hired here or there. Small things that, yes, I could nitpick or whatever. But in my view, if you really understand the story over there, I did the things necessary for the website to survive.
Ownership is a huge piece. And obviously, in terms of the understanding, in terms of being able to control a narrative and tell the story. One of the things that I think is interesting is that when I look at a lot of the comments that folks make, and not just folks who make comments on social media, people who are in need, people who work with you, folks who used to work with you. And how does it make you feel when they put you in the same category essentially as Clarence Thomas as being a traitor of black people?
It's comical, but I can't control what people say over Twitter. All I can do is live my life. But, it is comical. But I say it's comical, but, Clarence Thomas is a Supreme Court justice. He's a successful person. So it's not the worst thing you could say about me. Clarence Thomas is very successful. He's on the Supreme Court. He has risen to a place of great prominence in American history. But in terms of selling out my race, that's a joke. That rolls off of me because there's just no truth to it.
Yeah, when you are engaged in these debates, when you've been called out by the likes of Martella's wife and some people like that, for we had my tribe, Martella, Marcella's. No, not Bennett. When you have these debates, what I'm curious about is that do you go, you know what? You have my perspective. I screwed that enough. I was wrong.
Give me the example.
No, I'm asking. No, I'm asking you. Have you ever engaged in any of these debates and where you say
debates?
No. I am speaking wrong. What I'm saying is, have you ever?
Debates.
No, any of them. Have you ever been engaged in any of these debates where you then reflected by saying, you know what? I shouldn't have said this about the athlete. Well, you know what? I was
Oh,
on.
you talking about this debates on my television show or just any?
Well, I mean, I was out talking about television because that's where you are largely having these other conversations that people are responding to.
Yeah, I think, my nickname in Kansas City is Jason Whitlock because I flip positions. I react to new information. And so do I come up with the wrong opinions from time to time on athletes? Hell yeah. I sprout opinions every day. And so I didn't have hey, you know what? I was wrong. I've come to this or that conclusion. I do it all the time.
And speaking of that, I did see when I was looking at the comments after Harvard University and Colin Kaepernick. Why do you believe that what he is doing is because he's trying to find himself? What's the basis of that? What's the basis of that point of view?
Because I've seen many, many young people of mixed race who grow up in an environment outside the black community who have struggled with their identity. Everybody has. And anybody black that pretends like they haven't encountered that with young people is lying. And again, some things I know about Colin Kaepernick that I will not share or whatever, but he shows all the classic signs.
Of what?
He grew up in a white community, raised by white parents, and he's black. That right there is a very complicated upbringing in America.
Okay.
And it's going to lead, first of all, whether you're mixed race or not, all young people have identity issues. All of them. And they go through a process of finding themselves. That's what the college experience in the early part of your life is generally all about. Colin Kaepernick's are more complicated because of America's racial issue and his upbringing and things like that. And so when I see a guy go from being the party guy that's all tatted up to, voila, I lose my starting job, and now I'm baby Malcolm X or Angela Davis, and I got a black fist in the air, it raises someone who's trying to find himself.
Or could it be somebody who, the reason I think that's important, because when you articulate that point of view, it should be actually based upon something or substance that's tied to that person. When you say all people, first of all, everybody's different. Okay, everybody's different.
Person goes through trying to find themselves.
Yes, and what I'm saying is that there are people out there who might be 18 or 19 or 20 who aren't having the same issue that somebody else who 18, 19, and 20. But to say that about him, and then to say as if, well, it's that, when he's doing these things only because of his girlfriend, things along those lines, and you don't know. You're just throwing something out there. And I'm just wondering.
More than you think. No, well, but I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not going to go chapter and verse. I'm not going to do some deep dive on college.
But why not? Because if you offer that perspective,
I don't think it's unfair.
but isn't
Some of what I know I think is unfair.
But isn't it unfair for you to make that characterization if it's not based upon fact?
I do believe it's based on fact.
But if you believe it's based upon fact, but then you don't want to back it up.
I'm not going to share everything that I know or have been told about Colin Kaepernick. It's clear as, well, I'm not out on some shady territory looking at this guy. Everybody I know black has seen someone like Colin Kaepernick.
Okay,
That's a fact. Mixed race kid, raised in the suburbs, seen it on my Ball State football team with all these different recruits and guys that come in that don't come from the city, don't have some strong black connection. There's an identity issue that people work through early on in their life. He, in my opinion, is still working through those issues. I don't say that. I don't say that maliciously or derisively. He's a typical young person.
But it comes off as malicious. It's
just like this is a fact of life.
But that's not how it comes.
An overweight person.
But that's not how it comes off.
Some sort of issue that causes them to overeat.
But that's how.
That's not a malicious statement about overweight.
So you're not concerned about how it comes off because when people hear that, when people hear you associate who he is and what he has done, and then you throw in his girlfriend, you get this impression as if this guy, he's being led by other people, as if he hasn't come to that conclusion himself, and you give his perspective as, he's just a CPU brother, and then with the baby Malcolm X, and then,
but after the me happened to most everybody I know, Every person I know goes through some kind of confused state or different state while they're trying to figure out their identity. I think his are a bit more pronounced than others, but his background is a bit more.
Gotcha. Just like, because a very similar background to Obama. But could it not be that you have somebody here who has gone through that and who has reached the point who has said, this is who I am, this is what I want.
You can tell you why.
Why?
Because anything that I reach some conclusion, and this is me, and he ain't weak, but trust me, I can stand up and verbalize it and explain. I don't hide behind Twitter. I don't hide behind private conversations with Roland Martin or whoever else. I come out and stand on it and defend it.
But Jason, that's you.
I get it.
But also, you don't vote. And he said, that's me. And so, here's the deal. It's interesting to me that you want to give space to say, this is me, this is who I am, but you don't want to give space to him.
Roland, if you have some opinion about me not voting, or me overeating, or me about anything, you have a right to that opinion. I'm not going to go lay down and cry, oh my God, Roland.
No, but there are conversations that they get.
I'm a public figure. I can have he's a public figure. He took a highly polarizing position. He stood out there like he was man enough to deal with whatever came with him.
This says he's not. This goes beyond the position. I'm asking you a very specific question for a reason. And that is, when you opine, when you say that, again, you paint this picture that, y'all, this is nothing but a confused biracial. He don't know what he's doing. He's crazy. He just is all of that. That's actually that's how it comes off.
You know how many athletes, NFL athletes, that have told me that in private? Most of them. And so I'm not out here on some island all by myself. And there's most rational people can see it and express it privately. I just happen to say it publicly. He's a public figure that took one of the most polarizing positions in the history of sports. And so with that comes along some pushback and some people questioning your motives. When Muhammad Ali changed his name from Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali, joined the Nation of Islam, said I'm not going to get in the NFL or in the military draft, that's a strong core. And you know what he came out with? He stood on it.
And you know what's interesting?
And people said all kinds of things about Muhammad Ali.
And
questioned his motives and said, hey, he's just addicted to this religious thing.
And here's what I've learned.
That's what people do.
And here's what I've learned. What I've learned is when we want to, it's very convenient when we want to compare a Kaepernick to Ali because you want him to speak out. But then you take offense when others compare Kaepernick to Ali. You're literally bolstering your point of view by using Ali versus Kaepernick. Yet when others, because you said it earlier in terms of, people want to see him as Baby Malcolm X or Muhammad Ali. Right. You are using Ali to justify your argument, but when somebody else uses Ali just like to argue about Kaepernick, you say they're wrong.
Roland, I'm saying he's not Muhammad Ali because he won't stand out here and defend his position.
Yeah,
that's my opinion.
And what I'm saying is, what it also gives off to people is that you have a personal animus against Kaepernick. And what I'm saying is, it may be that there are people, and I mean, what I do, I've met people. I've met individuals who I just finished interviewing the Reverend Dr. James Lawson, one of the greatest organizers we've known, turned 90 years old last month. If you ask the average person, James Lawson, they'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. But you know what? Lawson, Nashville movement. You know what Lawson said? Lawson said, Roland, on my last meeting with Dr. King, he's on the front row with front row of the church, and he says, I was on the back row. There are some people that some will be loud and outspoken, others will lead quietly. There are different modes of leading. And so I don't necessarily think a person has to always hold news conferences, do sit-down meetings, and be out there chanting, talking, because some people actually want to lead with their actions as opposed to just talking. And there are others who just talk who don't have any action to back it up.
I got it, Roland. But as a broadcaster and a critic, I have a right. It's a
No, I understand.
to speak.
Of course.
To say, I don't like this or respect it. It makes me think he doesn't really believe it. It's just something he's doing.
Which also, I think, doesn't give enough space to their people who actually, that's how they present themselves.
Doesn't even. That's your opinion. I don't have a
Yeah,
problem.
no, actually, it's not just my opinion. I'm actually basing it on people who actually have
Okay,
done it.
but that's your opinion. I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah,
I'm not
that's all
offended by
that's where it
your
is.
opinion. Why
That's
are
where-
you offended by mine?
No, what I'm offended by is when we present this view that somehow that not disagreeing. That somehow he's bad, he's wrong, and what you send off is there's a personal animus against it. Reading your tweets,
I'm a
reading. No. But Jason, I've been doing media since I was 14 years old.
Got it, Roland. You're
No. What I'm saying is,
most of fun.
no. Actually, I'm not more the content. I'm Roland Martin. So I'm making the point that I get being a critic, but it comes off as if it's more personal.
To check, there's a guy named Carl Peterson in Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
General manager
On the business side.
Chiefs. He was the general manager, president of Kansas City Chiefs. I used to light him up every day in the Kansas City Star. Every day. All this made my name. Criticizing Kansas City Chiefs. He's running of the Kansas City Chiefs. And he used to go, oh, I think it's hurtful. I think it's hurtful. I think it's hurtful. No, it's just my job. This is how I do it. And Carl Peterson, some white dude again. Sledgehammer. Almost every day. You can go ask anybody in Kansas City. I'm a critic. If I disagree with someone, I express it.
Should Colin Kaepernick be back in the NFL?
Shouldn't he be back together? Mike's not about should.
Okay. When you look at Nathan Peterman who's thrown 82 career passes and 10 interceptions, do you believe that Colin Kaepernick has the skill set to be an NFL player?
Yeah, Colin Kaepernick has enough talent to play in the NFL.
Do you believe that?
And he's become such a polarized deal because the NFL role at the end it's just a TV show, man. That's all it is. And the NFL is going to do what's best for television ratings. And if they think Colin Kaepernick is bad for NFL ratings, they're not going to hire him. He's just an actor in a TV
What
show.
I also understand is that they also like winning, and that is this year. If somebody gets,
Roland, he didn't win in San Francisco, so don't have that.
he did win in San Francisco. Then of course we had that last season. Or let's also keep in mind the whole team sucked. I mean, remember it was 2-14. The whole team sucked.
It's a TV show.
Right, I got you. But the offensive line, the defensive line, the linebackers, the whole team sucked. You will admit that, right?
I got it, Roland.
Right. No, I'm just saying, but the whole team did suck.
I got it. I'm not going to do your deal and lay out my credentials of the sport.
No, I'm not laying out the credentials. I'm just saying if you went 2-13, the whole team sucked, not just him. Not just
But
him.
again, Kaepernick doesn't show up and wins follow him. Not particularly at 30 when he's been out of the league for a couple of years. I don't know if he makes a difference in terms of anybody winning or losing games. And so, is he good enough?
Only way you would know that if he actually gets the shot.
Is he good enough to be in the NFL talent-wise? Yes. He's created such a distraction around himself, and he's created the belief among NFL ownership that he's bad for ratings, and they're running a television show that's about ratings. Actors get written out of plots all the time.
But when you still have, look, when Eric Reed came back and took the knee, you still have Kenny Stills and some other different players. The reality is, I think the difference here is that you still have other players who still are protesting. I think in this case, they're saying, no, we're going to make an example out of this one because he actually, for them, started this. That's what everybody wants.
It's complicated. Oh, no, when Colin Kaepernick shows up on any team, there's an instant conversation about should he be your starting quarterback. And most of the NFL has him pegged as a backup quarterback. And they don't want a backup quarterback who instantly starts a conversation about whether he should be started.
Well, I tell you right now.
Coaches that don't want that distraction, and that has to.
I tell you what, there's some teams out there that I see them who are just terrible with quarterbacks.
Well,
Especially Buffalo.
but Chris, you don't know that much about football, Roland.
Yeah.
Not much at all.
Actually, I can watch. Actually, I know enough to know if I see a quarterback who's horrible. And look, I had to sit through Brock Osweiler with the Houston Texans.
He don't know
Lord Jesus. Actually,
Overwhelming majority of people in America, they don't know much about football.
well, I know enough about football to know why to see a bad quarterback versus somebody who actually has succeeded before.
The student is just more complicated.
No, I understand that, but don't act as if I don't know the difference between a bad quarterback and a quarterback is the win.
What goes into decision making about quarterbacks? It's really more complicated than just add a bit.
Oh, I've never talked to general managers or,
Roland.
Okay, all right, I'm just saying that.
Shit, I've talked to bankers. I don't know nothing about bankers. I've talked to, we got one concierge that said I can't be a concierge. I get it. You talk to somebody.
No, not just talk to them, but also, again, but you talk about a lot of stuff that you also don't have a background with. All right, Jason. Well, it's going to be very interesting to see how this season plays out. And also, we'll see what happens with these players. And I think these players are going to surprise you in terms of those who are very much engaged in things they're doing in the community. And I give them hell of a lot more credit, I think, than you do.
I think players have been involved in their communities and doing community work, particularly in the NFL, for decades. I've covered the Kansas City Chiefs in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Player involvement in their communities and community work has been going on for a decade. Right now, there's a lot of media attention on it, and it seems brand new to everybody else, but it's been going on for years.
Yeah. Well, it was brand new because most people don't pay attention. But again, I think these guys, I think this generation of athletes, when the record is told, which actually is not always told in the present, people are going to realize the things that they have been involved in and have done that actually is advancing and paving the way for the next generation of athletes that I think is totally different than before.
Yes,
And that's the point of history. All right?
sir.
Appreciate it. Thanks a bunch.